Behind the Counter is brought to you by Audible.com, the internet's leading provider of audiobooks with more than 100,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. For a free audiobook of your choosing, go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ. Hello and welcome everybody to another beautiful episode of Behind the Counter. We're still missing the number 2 in that intro. If you know anybody who lives on Sesame Street, maybe they could provide us with the number 2. My name is Rich Stambolian, and with me as always is Vato number 1, Jonathan Adler.
I'm more of Vato number 2.
Nah, you're Vato number 1, man. Always cruising around that lowrider.
Check out my lowrider, guys.
John's got the sweetest. This guy's driving a drop down El Camino.
I got deuces on the bitch.
Yeah. You gotta go with the deuce, man. So what's going on?
Not much, man.
I'm commanding you to grow right now.
I command you to grow. How much of those videos did you watch?
I had a lot of work to do this afternoon. I ended up watching maybe a good half an hour of them.
If you guys want to get inspired and also have a great time and want a new hero to worship, TL Fletcher's
CT Fletcher.
CT Fletcher. You'll get it. CT Fletcher?
CT Fletcher.
CT Fletcher on YouTube. His channel is just prime real estate.
Well, that also stems from the fact that John and I both went to the gym together.
Yes.
They have great sandwiches there.
They were. It was a good time.
That's pretty intense, man. I thought I couldn't. I got through. Again, also, well, this is a comic book show, so welcome to your number 1 source of pop culture, nerd culture,
and muscles.
Two guys talking about the gym before they talk about comic books. The only place you'll ever find that.
Never gonna happen
on the internet. You can also check us out on Facebook.com/BehindTheCounterGFQ. I think I nailed it. I think that's right.
You did.
You can find us both on Twitter at BTC Jadler and BTC Rich. Did I nail that one?
Yep.
All right. Cool.
And BTCcomics.com.
BTCcomics.com. Also plug your Instagram because I like it.
My Instagram, do I even know it by heart? I think it's
just Jadler.
It's Jadler.
All right. So
it's Jadler. Jadler and Instagram.
Before we get into the cool and crazy comic book news today,
let's talk about getting jacked some more.
I watched the 10-minute kind of bio thing, and it was like, and it's him talking in the shadow, and then they show a clip of him from 1994, and I paused it and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch the rest of this because I felt like
it was gonna get sad
right before they went into that clip. He was like, and then it happened, and I thought he was benching 400.
Yeah,
I thought the thing was just gonna fall on his head. But no, and it's such a crazy story about how this dude, look it up, everybody, if you're in even remotely into working out and exercise, this dude just he weighed a ton and he benched a ton, and for 20 years straight would eat, that's a story in and of itself. 20 years straight would eat 4 Big Macs, 4 fries, and 2 milkshakes every day for lunch, and then 20 years later had a massive heart attack.
Yep.
And now he
came back like the Hulk.
He pops 10 heart pills a day, and this guy looks like a black Superman. Yeah,
he's Luke Cage. Yeah. He's my pick for Luke Cage right now.
Nah, Terry Crews still number 1.
His voice is perfect for it.
It is because he knows, he throws it out there.
Yeah. But you saw the Mount Biceps?
No.
He's doing arm crawls. He's like, I'm making trails, making mountaintops, Mount Biceps. He's like, check out my Mount Biceps, Mount Rushmore, Mount Biceps coming for you.
I watched the other clip of him talking to his bicep while he was pumping.
Yeah, command you to grow. I'm in charge.
Ridiculous. Go check it out. Everybody.
There's also you should check out his story about his inspiration for working out. His cousin Junior Miles, who is in the penitentiary. It's an incredible story. I can't say it on the air because I'll get yelled at and looked at by both of you guys. But it's pretty awesome. It's
not comic book related, John.
Well, it's a lot of cursing.
Yeah. You can censor yourself. Yeah. You need a show. You got to do a pump show. Once we start trimming down, once we start getting shredded, We'll do a pump show
April
on
1st, son. Shred time.
But ironically, the pump show will be about comic books.
There will be more about comics in this show.
So a lot of interesting comic book news today. A kind of
crazy day.
Crazy day. Like a bombshell was kind of dropped on comic book fans today.
Yeah.
I don't want to say bombshell, but I think it was more of like a
Pressure.
fan bombshell. If you, Andrew, I sent you the pictures, right?
Images.
That's gonna be the one that picture of Angela. So go for it, man.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
So Marvel's been under a lot of pressure recently from Rich Johnson at Bleeding Cool. Mm-hmm. Age of Ultron is going on right now. It's the weird pseudo event that's happening. It's kind of the bookend to all of Bendis's Avengers stuff,
right?
And apparently they've had a very top secret ending. That was only known by about 8 people involved in the industry,
right?
Which is totally wrong. Because now we all know it. And Joe Quesada was drawing that particular section of it. And the solicit on it said basically that we're getting a brand new guest star into the Marvel Universe. So the way that was being pitched is that someone from another company was coming over. And there was all types of ridiculous stuff like the Flash coming over, like Wally West was going to be on. No, never going to happen.
Whoa.
Never going to happen. We always, whenever there's a guy coming back, we always speculate it's going to be Miracle Man.
Yeah.
Because they own the property. They might as well use it at this point. But then they announced today, because I guess under pressure, and the New York Times even dovetailed and reported that Angela from Spawn,
that's the one,
who has a ton of controversy behind her, is coming over to, at the very end, being drawn by Joe Quesada and being written by Bendis. And Neil Gaiman, in turn, will be coming over to Marvel and co-writing Guardians of the Galaxy for at least issue number 5, where she gets introduced to the team as well.
Great.
Weird.
Really weird. Weird. It's really weird. I think that was like I said, it was a bombshell, but it was kind of like I also think I don't think this is going to be the true ending.
I agree. Also, this is an epilogue for the most part,
right? And that she's going to show up. I also think it might not be her at this point, because Gaiman can throw it around and say like, yeah, she's showing up or whatever, and it might be a red herring. Part of me thinks it is, part of me thinks it isn't. I don't know if I'm disappointed. I think it's just a weird move.
It's a weird move.
Because you want Miracle Man.
I don't care about the character.
You want Miracle Man.
Yeah. Well, now here's the interesting part about this. Number one, they buried the lead for the most part. Right. Neil Gaiman coming over to Marvel is the real story here.
Right.
Especially because the dude hasn't been there in God knows how long. I can't remember the last Marvel.
2003.
That was for 1602,
1602,
correct?
Yeah.
So,
and Eternals, I think he did after.
He did Eternals afterwards. Yeah. I always say Internals like it's a dirty movie. But that's a bigger thing also because we're supposed to getting Sandman coming back to DC, which I have a feeling is not going to happen for whatever reason.
The prequel he's doing.
I don't think it's going to happen for whatever reason.
Okay.
It's just going to be in creative limbo for a very long period of time. But here's the thing. So I did a little research because I always knew there was like a lot going on with the Angela character.
Right.
A lot of fighting between both Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane about this. Did you watch him on Talking Dead this week?
I was watching the TV with my fiance, and we were watching Walking Dead, and
the commercial came.
They showed the commercial, and she was like, Todd McFarlane looks like such a dick.
Yeah, Bobby sat through it, and I just saw the commercial. I'm like, there's no way, chance I'm watching this crap. So anyway, so the whole story behind Angela was for about 3 issues of Spawn early into the series, they introduced Neil Gaiman wrote an issue, Frank Miller wrote an issue, and somebody else too. I forgot the other guy.
I don't know if Dave Sim wrote that issue, but
no, he was in the Frank Miller issue.
Okay, Alan Moore.
And Alan Moore, right. Yeah. So in the Neil Gaiman issue, you had the introduction of Angela, who's this bounty hunter from heaven that hunts down spawns, which I don't know how this is going to work out in Marvel, unless they're bringing Spawn over also.
That'd be awesome.
Ridiculous.
That'd be kind of
I'd be more interested in that than anything else.
He worked in the Marvel Universe because he could be one of the unknown kings of hell.
There you go. Perfect. Wonderful. Boom. Look at this writer happening. But also he introduced Cagliostro, which is who you want to come in the picture also as of our discussion.
I forgot.
He's a bum. Yeah, it's like a god. Because they're all bums. It's a bum story.
He's an angel too. No, he's a Spawn also.
Yeah, he's next Spawn.
Yeah.
He's like I think he's medieval Spawn or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, who cares? But the whole thing is that Neil Gaiman.
I did when I was 14.
I know. No, I was really into it too. It was a big deal. Like, who's this bum?
Medieval Spawn.
Guess what? It's a bum.
Yeah.
That whole comic was about being the king of Bum Alley. It was ridiculous.
It was. And a mafia boss.
He loved it. Mafia boss,
Tony Twist, and a kid toucher.
And then the plateau is when they introduced Sagarilla.
Yeah. I like Sagarilla.
Great name. Was it Sagarilla?
I don't think so.
It was something like that. I think about this. Anyway, so
I think it was Sigor,
something like that. Yeah. I think it was a better name too. Also, Apex or something. I don't know.
If somebody knows the name of the gorilla from Spawn, hit us up.
There might be 4 of them.
Dial into the live line.
So basically, they went back and forth, and who owned, because McFarlane continued to use the Angela character, and Neil Gaiman said, "No, this is my character. This is supposed to be Image, where whatever we create is supposed to be ours."
No,
yada yada yada. And then Neil Gaiman also had the rights for Miracle Man,
right?
At this point, Alan Moore is fighting with them for that, and then Marvel backed Neil Gaiman's fight with McFarlane,
right,
and create a LLC called Miracles and Marvels to basically fight for Angela, Cagliostro, and Miracle Man, which I still think is completely insane.
Yeah,
because yeah, right? Am I wrong?
You know what? Like, they're his babies, so I think it's more the principle than the fact that it's a bum and an angel. Well,
yeah, and I also think it's a little crazy that the amount of lawsuits that McFarlane's got into between Tony Twist, the hockey player, and this. So the end of all this stuff was they now own Angela, Cagliostro, and Miracle Man 50-50. Well, Marvel owns Miracle Man completely now.
Yeah.
So they own 50-50. So if Angela shows up, McFarlane gets a check as well.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is that the Angela thing is just a way into the Miracle Man stuff. Because Miracle Man did appear in Spawn as the Man of Miracles.
Right.
And weirdo stuff. There's an action figure from him if you want to pick it up.
There's also it was that statue.
There's a figure also.
Was there a figure?
Yeah.
I don't remember the figure because I remember the statue was him on the crater.
Yeah.
Like looking all crazy.
Like they look awful.
I was kind of like that statue.
The figure was cool.
We couldn't sell that statue for.
Oh no! Nobody knew what it was.
That was my albatross.
That's right. Yeah,
that's my albatross. I used to.
You try to sell that thing like a.
I would. I think there was like money on the line too. I remember.
Yeah, there was.
Our old boss was like, "If you sell this thing, I'll give you X amount of money," and nobody wanted it. And it was down like $50, and nobody wanted it.
Nobody wanted that piece of garbage. It was nice. It was a nice statue, but
it was one of those weird things where like if I wanted to buy it, he would charge me $100.
Yeah. So you had to do it.
Like twist the knife on you. I think it's an interesting thing to say the least. And also like, I was thinking about this today. Again, this is stuff that I've probably said in the past, but since Marvel is doing this whole kind of, in the big books, in the big Avengers books, they're doing the different universe things and the different Earth
big
stuff.
Time.
Which could also, it makes perfect sense if you want to introduce new characters. You know, they could just get ported over. Like in I think it was New Avengers this week where you got introduced to Terrax the Enlightened. It
was amazing.
Who's like the other Terrax from like a different dimension. I think they're gonna work that into Marvel canon. And I think this is a great idea, and not just because I came up with it, but you could have the parallel between a character like the Sentry and a character like Miracle Man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And say like, this is our version of you, and you're the guy from Spawn universe.
Yeah,
you know, they're gonna open up the dimensional rift, and they're gonna see the Spawn alley, and then they're gonna be like, oh, this is like Earth 35.
I think it's completely possible. No, this is the same thing I was thinking of. I think that they might be setting up for an Image crossover because I think Kirkman would work with Marvel at this point. And why not? I mean, that would make money for them both. I think a Spider-Man Spawn thing would work out really well.
I want to see Spider-Man Invincible.
That'd be awesome too.
Yeah.
But the Miracle Man thing is, I think it's right around the corner. I think this is just saying this, the setting for. I would like to see him as Miracle Man as opposed to Marvel Man because I know him as Miracle Man. I'm not a British guy.
Yeah.
And it's just a good name. Yeah. I love the name Miracle Man. Yeah. But I know that they would want to go Marvel.
Great Ozzy song too.
Is it?
Yeah. From No Rest for the Wicked album from 1987.
Ozzy fan number 1, bro.
Yep. That's me, Vodka number 1 and Ozzy fan number 1.
But I think it's an interesting story. I think it's completely out of left field.
Yeah.
And I don't like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that's where you're planting Neil Gaiman.
I want to write this show.
And Angela, like that's what
a little raccoon.
Which is now people are speculating: is she going to be in the movie now?
I don't know, man.
This is
getting crazy
because the bleeding cool thing was that said when he wanted to tease the fact that she was coming in.
Yeah,
they said there was major legal ramifications, and it might have to do with the fact that there's Hollywood involved in this thing also.
Yeah,
which is like this is what you're worrying about, Angela.
Yeah,
I would worry about Cognito more.
He's a bum. He's a super bum.
He'd point his finger and tell you that to stop looking like a bum.
It's so weird. It's such a weird thing, especially because like for us, it's because we grew up during it, and it was one of those things. And I'll always look fondly back at those when Image broke free because we were like in our early teens, and it was like
the newest crap.
Yo, man, like the dude who used to draw Spider-Man
is drawing Spider-Man with a cape in a bum alley.
Exactly, like he's like we were hungry for that Jim Lee and McFarlane art
because it was so different.
We wanted the radical Liefeld stuff because like like X-Force and New Mutants, it was all like pouches and like 90s stuff. Like. Say what you want about the guy's art, but when that came, when I was like 10 years old, I was like, this guy's Michelangelo.
Yeah. Hey, look at that. He's got two cables in the same comic.
And, everybody looks like Cable. Everybody looks like Cable.
Cougar.
And then, with the weird head thingies. And then and I'm like, all those things are so cool. He's bringing them to whatever. Jim Valentino, not so much. Didn't really.
I was a big fan of Shadowhawk and Jim Valentino because of my Guardians of the Galaxy background.
Yeah. I always liked him on Marvel books. But like Shadowhawk was okay.
I think you're just grossed out by him personally.
Maybe
he's like an ape man.
And you had who else? Who else was the Willis Portasio?
Willis Portasio, I care less about.
Loved him on X-Men. Loved him as the artist on X-Men.
Yeah, I grew to appreciate him as a kid. He was the one I can care less about.
Okay.
Because I was all into like these super dynamic, muscly dudes.
Yeah.
And he was the more abstract.
Yeah.
But I did love Sam Keith, who was the super abstract.
Yeah.
But I love what he does now, and I love when he pokes his head back, and I love his stuff on X-Men.
Yeah. So like we kind of grew up with that thing, and like you remember. It's like I think you could probably remember Spawn until like issue maybe 50.
I read tons of Spawn, man. Tons of Youngblood too. Yeah. I remember the first issue, the second issue with the guy with having no pants on.
Right.
I remember like by heart.
And you have the Angela character debuting in I think issue 8 or 9.
Yeah, 8.
And like it was such a cool thing.
It's a hot book right now.
Yeah, it's such. I wish I didn't sell my Spawn collection.
I know. I just found mine
6 years ago. At $300 for it.
Really?
1 through 100.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy good or crazy bad?
I don't know.
It was crazy good. Actually,
good for you.
It was long. It was longer than that ago. I was just like, I don't want to keep these anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's.
I thought I was like, when am I going to read Spawn again?
I think those Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman issues were really awesome. I think there was something interesting about.
I actually had doubles of the Grant Morrison issues. So.
Oh, I never read those.
The ones with Houdini. It's like.
Oh, yeah. I love that stuff. That was Alan Moore.
No, there's Grant Morrison.
Houdini?
Yeah.
Houdini?
Pretty sure.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look it up, man.
We will. Talk a little bit.
But it's an interesting thing. And then you have like our main theme, our main topic for today was kind of it was gonna be, this is a good segue for it, was gonna be is the mainstream comic machine a soul crushing territory for a creator.
Yes, especially in one company in particular.
Well, I'm saying like, you have your good, I guess, which is Neil Gaiman, who was one of the foremost proponents of saying like creators deserve, creator rights, copyrights, and all that stuff. Like him, Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, those guys were like the full before Image. Those were the dudes who were like, listen, like I want to own my stuff.
This stuff is mine.
Creator-owned properties. When you get into the business, you know that you're getting a like work for hire contract, which basically means like, hey, let us know your stories, write them, and that's it. We'll throw a little advice here and there. On one end of the spectrum, you have Neil Gaiman winning a lawsuit, bringing, let's say, 3 characters into the Marvel universe or whatever, and maintaining them as his own. On the other end of the spectrum, you have one of the who didn't even start writing, who didn't even publish any Green Lantern stories yet.
2
dudes left.
Joshua Hale,
right,
and Andy Diggle on Action Comics before he even started an issue.
Okay,
so 2 guys.
So
Nick Spencer also left after 2 issues.
Okay, and today the most recent one was I forgot his name.
Joshua Hale Vyakov.
Yeah. leaving Green Lantern
and Red Lantern
because he was apparently like they were all promised that no more edits were gonna happen.
That was a summit. The overall the DC Creative Summit said basically we're gonna have more of a hands-off approach, which is what a lot of what was going on in DC for the most part is that editorial was really writing the stories for these writers, saying this is a story we want you to write it.
Right. But set in stone, he already had his first arc planned.
Yeah, I read a blurb with him today, and he said that he basically wanted this like a space age crime story,
right? Like
a crime noir with Jonathan Stewart.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want. You want fresh blood into it. You're taking over for big shoes, like Jeff Johns.
He's a crime writer.
And all of a sudden, like an editor turns around and says, like, we want you to kill John Stewart in your first arc. And he's like, well, we already agreed on this. And then unceremoniously, like, his statement was kind of like, it was very sad because he was like, I'm stepping away from this and it's going to hurt me financially and like probably like comics career wise, but I can't deal with this. I can't deal with the bureaucracy. And it's like, is the mainstream comic factory just burning guys out and like not does DC not know what it wants anymore? And then like I don't want to speak specifically about DC, but it seems like this is a giant problem.
Listen, we're like we talk a lot about DC and we always defend ourselves. We always kind of like not backpedal, but we kind of set it up for defense for this part because it seems like we're dragging on DC a lot, but like I think we're watching something that's pretty historic when it comes to a company that is thinking in the old school. When editors always help have a major key in stories,
right?
But we now
Julie Schwartz,
Julie Schwartz, and like all like even like Stan Lee and like that era. You had a lot of stuff being handed down from high, but they didn't live in the internet era where you have these creators on Twitter, on social media, and you also have lots of like guys like Rich Johnson who are just waiting for something to happen, and we know everything that's going on behind the scenes, and DC is doing nothing to improve that. Now, the thing with Joshua Hale is, number one, I don't know if it sounds like he was the one that had to write this storyline with the death of John Stewart, which kind of seems like they're also going that direction for a while now. There's kind of like a few hints for him. I feel like he's been like on the slab for the most part. But the thing about it is they're just coming out of this what's his name? Orson Scott Card
debacle.
Thing. Yeah. Which basically Orson Scott Card, guy who wrote Ender's Game, was gonna write an issue of Adventures of Superman, and the dude is a huge homophobe. And retailers wouldn't pick it up and all this stuff, and like there was,
artists were dropping off.
Were dropping off. Everyone. It was really a big media thing, and now it's indefinitely put on hold. Now, do you really want to be the guy as a writer who kills off the most prominent black character? And that's the story they're making this out to be, because now it's become like it's not the fact that the guy has left the book, and not because of editors telling him what the story is. Because I think that's the bigger story is the fact that an editor is straight up telling you this is the story arc that we want you to write. Screw your own creativity.
Yeah, work this in.
Make this happen. That I find as a creator would drive me absolutely crazy. Well, you have no freedom at that point. You're coming on to tell your stories. But now the first thing they're saying is like, this is the most prominent black character. He's been in cartoons. There was outrage that he was in the Green Lantern movie, and now you're killing him off.
Right.
So it's becoming a double-edged sword for him. And now, right before we came on air, apparently DC has been in an uproar all day long and doing basically critical damage control for them, and they're now backpedaling on that. Just as they backpedaled on the Gail Simone story,
right?
I'm sure there's something going on with Andy Diggle, and apparently this is just the beginning when it comes to this mass exodus that's happening to DC. A month ago, there was a lot of people were coming over to DC,
right?
And they were just pulling in fresh blood, just throwing money at them, and it was becoming the place to be because they thought that the summit was a new change for them. But now you're just seeing like hopes and dreams and spirits being crushed on a monthly basis,
right? Yeah,
and it doesn't, and it's. You're not getting anything new from the story. You're not getting there's a lot of young guys who are hungry to tell something that's a great story.
Right.
And when you have, I don't understand who the hive mind in DC is. Is it Dan DiDio? Is it because Jeff Johns and Jim Lee are supposedly the creative control guys?
Right.
I don't see them writing these stories.
Right.
Unless I'm wrong.
It's something that we can't, like, we don't know because we're not involved with it. And even if we were involved with it, we'd probably have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and we wouldn't be able to talk about it.
So here's the guy. So I'm looking at the hierarchy of DC. So Diane Nelson's the president, right? Dan DiDio is the co-publisher of DC Comics. Jim Lee is the co-publisher of DC Comics.
Right.
Bob Harris is the editor-in-chief. Jeff Johns is the CCO,
right?
Which can mean nothing for the most part. So you got a bunch of guys who've been in the creative business for a long time. Are we having more stuff coming down from high on the boardroom?
It's the backers.
You think so?
It's the backers.
Do you think guys in the backers are saying like Jon Stewart must die?
Yeah, I think you know what I think it is. I think comics as mainstream comics. I think especially more with DC, and again, as a fan, this is what I see. Mainstream comics from DC are not written in the boardroom, but they're directed from the boardroom.
Absolutely.
Saying, these are analytics, these are our numbers, you need to make this guy pop, you need to kill this guy, we'll make money when this guy returns, etc., etc. It's not like it was in the Silver Age of comics where you had Barry Allen running around with a pancake head, because it's like, pitch me a story with the Flash, like, oh, what do I have to work with? Well, he gets into like these wacky capers. All right, make his feet hot dogs. He can't run on hot dogs, and like, it's a comic book.
Says brother.
And then 30 years later, some kid or the adult who read the hot dog feet Flash comic, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is amazing! Comic books are beautiful." Now it's like it seems like it's so you can't say this, you can't say that. It's becoming like a weird censored genre in the big two. Not even so much like Marvel, because Marvel has such a solid core of books.
Yeah.
That people still gripe about, but I think Marvel is on such a they're not shooting for the stars at this point, but they're on a nice plateau of solid books and solid storytelling. Some of the stuff is give or take, but for the most part, your main books and your main storylines are really,
they're coming
really
in
good.
For good stuff. Yeah. But look at the creative process as well. I mean, they're the guys who practically invented the summit that we know today. You get, whoever's in charge at the moment, which is now basically Axel Alonso, which is a great guy who helped to, revolutionize Marvel as we know it.
Who did work for DC at one point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he did a lot of great stuff over there too. He gave us Bloodhound. We also, but he's the one who's like, he gave us like Ecstatics. Preacher, he worked for Vertigo. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, that guy cut his teeth in Vertigo, and a great time to be in Vertigo, which is not a place to be anymore because it doesn't exist.
Right. Except for Fairest and
Fables. That's it. It's crazy.
And DMZ. Not anymore. I know DMZ got canceled.
But you have like the big guys and the little guys sitting down, and you're pitching stories to each other. It becomes like basically a weekend retreat of a creative bullpen,
right? Which
is awesome. I have no idea what's going on in DC when it comes to their creative process, because I don't think there is a creative process. Why did Grant Morrison leave? Why do we see this mass exodus of people leaving this company that no one can talk about? This is why you have people who want to go over to Image now. This is why they're going to net so many great creators in the coming months. I guarantee you, almost every single dude that is leaving DC is going to start making great deals with Kirkman. Because if you're coming out of DC where you have a shackle around your creative throat, wouldn't you want to do the exact story you want to do deep down in Image?
Exactly. Yeah. This is like a very crazy thing, and it's like a little bit of future talk. Because the way it's going, it just seems like DC's gonna do. What's gonna happen to, I think, the DC Comics franchise is you can foreseeably see them file for Chapter 11, and them not really.
I don't know if that can happen.
I don't know if that can happen. Like, you know what? Like, it's a long shot.
Mentally, they can do it.
Mentally, yeah, it's a long shot. It's a long shot because you'll have nobody buying books, or like people who want, like, the books will sell, but only because stores keep ordering them.
Yeah,
that doesn't, ordering 100 books doesn't mean 100 people are going to buy.
We have now the digital, empire now.
You have the digital empire now. Could you foresee maybe in like 15 years DC getting very desperate and selling those properties?
Yes.
Saying like, Image, if you want the Flash, you can have him for like $3 million.
I don't know,
something like that.
That's like practically comic book sacrilege for the most part. Selling out like Superman every year to go into another fight with Siegel and Schuster's people.
Well, you can't. That's the thing. Like, you cannot lose your Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. You can't lose your Trinity. They will hold on to those because those are money makers. Not Wonder Woman. Superman, Batman is money makers. But it just seems like it's headed towards like kind of like a creative apocalypse.
Yes.
Where like things are going to start to implode a little bit, and I really can't wait for those stories to come out.
I know. This is exactly what you're saying. This is what I was driving home after like the news was hitting about the Green Lantern stuff, and I think we're really seeing something that is showing like a bit of like a Roman Empire like being the fall.
Yeah,
because we want to love DC. It's not that we're haters on DC. Like you love DC, I love DC. You know, but as you said, like there's a corrosion going on in their world that is just everything feels temporary. Like I'm waiting for them to get like just like say, you know what, we made a mistake, which I'll never say publicly, and pull the plug on what they're trying to do now. Because I thought they were on the right path when it came before this. Like, I don't think rebooting this company was ever the right choice.
No, it was not. Like doing the hard relaunch, not a good idea because. All right, I'll put it to you this way: doing the hard relaunch in the way that they did it, not the right move, and I think they were looking at it in the short term.
Absolutely.
Instead of that's what it feels like to me. You know?
If you do it, because I think it really was. It happened out of nowhere. I think they kind of like threw Flashpoint together, you know, out of nowhere, and just said like, you know what, we're gonna start over. You know, they basically like Dan DiDio woke up in a cold sweat, and like, let's do this.
Right. Yeah.
And I was reading somebody who recently left Morrison. Morrison did a nice little epilogue when he was leaving Action this week, where he was he basically said he was tired of writing stuff where you didn't like on a month-to-month basis where you really didn't know where you were going.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're having those creative roadblocks. Like you want to do this crazy thing with Superman, but you down the line you know that he's gonna fight a stupid alien, that he has to be around for or whatever.
Right.
Some type of status quo. And everything, we said it before, everything feels so empty and temporary. You like JLA this week? I
thought I was gonna segue this into JLA number 2 this week,
which is a good book. Isn't it a beautiful book?
It's gorgeous. Dave Finch knocked it out of the park in this one.
This is probably one of because Batman Green Lantern, we always talk. It's one of the books that didn't go through a lot of changes. JLA, this book is probably the most drastically different JLA that we know, but it's also the most enjoyable.
It works
because did you read Justice League, the regular one this week? So Justice League, well, you've read the past few months. The best thing about it is Shazam,
right?
But it feels completely empty. It's like a bunch of like weird character actors playing Superman and Batman, all these weird dudes. This is like fully like I would never ever imagine in my life that I would enjoy reading a Steve Trevor book.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. You nailed it. I read issue number 2, and issue number 1 left me with a lot of hangups.
Yeah,
but they were for the most part resolved in issue number 2. If again, like we always talk about quality over quantity, if this book was released like a little sooner, I think it would have been better. It would have definitely helped the status quo in my brain for DC. Justice League has rubbed me wrong since day one, since the debut. And it was the first book in the relaunch, it's the first book to hit number 18. We're approaching, we're at the 18-month mark.
Well, look at it this way.
It's been a year and a half.
I know. I was just thinking about that the other day, like how far we've come in terms of mileage, with this crap storyline. But
JLA has set like a good precedence. I think it's a little weird that they're like the task force that has to take on the Justice League,
and they're fighting robots.
But it's a good solid book. Yeah, this issue is really solid. You had your team meeting for the first time.
Great Hawkman
moment. Which it just seems like they're ignoring everything that was going on with everybody else,
as they should,
and just putting them in a room. And even like I like the way this Martian Manhunter is.
Oh hell yeah!
As opposed to kind of like the Stormwatch.
He's authority. He's like the authority version,
right?
Where he's just more proactive and like. Like I can mind wipe him right now. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, I'm a bad dude.
He's got bad personality traits. Just to wipe him out.
And you have Steve Trevor kind of being like the lonely bro.
Yeah.
And like the Catwoman stuff I like
was
too.
Good.
The Catwoman stuff was great because like I don't care. Like I like the character.
Me too.
But
I can care less about the Batman thing.
It's hard to really enjoy Catwoman because I don't think anybody's written that definitive Catwoman story yet.
Well, we always
maybe Long Halloween.
Long Halloween and to a degree, Brubaker stuff.
Right.
The thing, and there was some good stuff with the Black Mask stuff, and like when he was Slam Bradley and was in the book for a while. I forgot who wrote that. Will Pfeiffer wrote a really good Catwoman. But we always talk about characters that are better in a team book. And I think they may have just found their niche with Catwoman, that she does work in a great dynamic with other people. And I think that's what the benefit of this book is. A lot of characters who would never survive on their own, because Martian Manhunter has never done well outside of a team.
Right.
And he is Justice League. That guy is, like, in my heart, that guy is the lifeblood of Justice League.
Exactly.
He's a guy that wastes all his time eating Oreos, sitting in the satellite. But this is something that is drastically different from the Justice League that we know. It's fresh. It's a great idea. It looks great doing it. Your interest story. There's a mystery in the heart of it. It's solid. This is my problem with DC from this reboot is to do a reboot, you need a strong foundation.
Exactly.
Something that you like. There's a reason why you're here.
Planned out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was not there at all. There was everything was playing it for a 6-issue arc. 6-issue arc.
Yeah.
Nothing that was saying like when we had Crisis. You had John Byrne on Action rebooting it,
right?
Which was incredible.
Exactly.
You had Batman Year One from Frank Miller, incredible.
Yeah.
You have actual tangible stuff that you want. Like this is why we came here, not because people are wearing Mandarin collars and are going back to a really bland style. This is Justice League of America is something that's fresh, something new, and something that should be carrying over. Extremely interesting.
It's an extremely interesting book in a universe of kind of forgettable mistakes.
Doomsday era DC.
I think it might be worse than Doomsday era DC, because at least with Doomsday era DC you had Gangbusters.
I love Gangbuster. He should be on this team.
Yeah, he'd be awesome on this team. I kind of forgot what I was gonna say, but it was something about DC.
Just a weird place.
I wish they did. 18 months down the line, I really wish they did more quality control in terms of and this is something that it's an ideal situation where I wish focus groups were done before this.
With real comic fans?
With fans, with actual fans, not boardroom focus groups or even creator focus groups, but the people who buy these books and dissect them like we do every week, and every day that we read comic books, if you had an age group, let's say from 10 to 50, age range 10 to 50, men and women, people who are comic book fans, right? Movie fans or whatever, just people who like good stories, etc. Get them in countrywide focus groups and say all right, have a guy, make him sign papers, have a guy half an hour presentation. This is the direction we're going. This is the costume. What do you think? And then have a little fact sheet at the end with what you like and what you didn't tabulate all that stuff. And I guarantee you that nobody would approve of those costumes. Number one, I guarantee you nobody would approve of the first lineup of books. I would bank that. I would say at least 80% of fans would say why are we getting this book? Why are we getting a Challengers book? Why not? Where's Wally West? Where's this? Where's we're doing away with Rand and Thanagar. We're doing away with all this other stuff, but we will make references to Quard and a couple other planets,
and just leave it all, and just just leave it in orbit for whatever reason,
and just everything's kind of ambiguous,
and kind of worry about that later.
Yeah, it's we're gonna basically write this as we go,
which is such an awful plan.
So what do you think about this? And it wouldn't have come to pass. It would have a soft relaunch like we would have had in '86 after the Crisis. You would have had, I think, ideally in the other universe that's parallel, and the other Earth that revolves around the sun, that's on the other side of the sun right now.
Too.
Their comic book show is talking about how awesome DC is right now and how crappy Marvel is.
That'd be great. I'd like to meet our bizarre versions. Square Universe. I think you bring up a good point though about the idea of going to a quality control aspect of a focus group.
Yeah. You think we'd be two skinny black guys?
I hope so. I would like to be two basketball playing
that'd be cool.
Athletic black guys. What I think is great is not actually great, but I don't think DC would ever have in the way that their hive mind's working. I don't think they would ever do that, because Marvel, you look at them. Look who they have in their big books. You have your Matt Fractions, your Remender, guys who kind of dug their own ditches, and Hickman. Yeah. Bendis is now on the X-Men books. They looked at what fans are responding to, and there seems to be a good rapport between fans and their product. Like we loved Secret Warriors. We loved Shield. So why wouldn't this guy be in charge of world building in the Avengers books. Like, it works out perfectly. Remender killed it on Uncanny X-Force. It became one of the greatest unsung books in Marvel history. And let's get this guy in Captain America. Let's get this guy on Uncanny X-Force, Uncanny Avengers, and let's start some world building.
And that's a guy coming from an indie background.
Absolutely. And Hickman too.
And and both those guys getting done right by the company. You know,
Fraction, all these guys are indie guys.
They're getting done right, as opposed to like an indie guy coming into DC and then kind of getting chewed up and spit out. Lemire, I gotta hand it to him because he's working out.
And Matt Kint too.
Yeah, like they're working out very well as far as what they're doing, because Lemire is kind of like a go-to guy right now. I think he's penning like 3 books at this point. But like on the other side of the coin, there's also the fact that you are paid for your work for hire. You know, like we own the characters, you know, we own the story too, even though you came up with it. So I feel like there's a disconnect there in this day and age where, you know, like it's not a wartime era comic books where like this is my source of income. Like I'm 4F or 4H. I couldn't go to the whichever one it is.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to the war, so I have to make my money somehow. I'm gonna write comic books, you know. And it's like, well, we want you to do this, this, and this. And no problem. Money's coming in, you know.
Money's coming in.
But now it's like, you know, there's that disconnect where I know there's more to the story. There's different levels, you know. It's not black and white anymore. It's gray. It's all gray. And it sucks as a fan, you know. It really does, because you want the goods. And I've always defended mainstream comics my entire life.
Oh hell yeah.
Because like, you know, for the most part, like you get most of the time you get the best of the best storytelling, you know.
Yeah, but because they can afford it,
right? You know, and like it's not a knock on indie stuff. Like I love indie stuff, and I love, you know, like anything, like just tons of stuff that gets put out, and even more now through Kickstarter, and you know,
look at all the venues you have to publish now.
Yeah, and like your crowdsourcing and all that stuff. You know, there's a lot of amazing books out there, and you know, like I like immediately that's something that pops in my head is like something like Blankets.
Yeah.
You know, which if you know, I could see DC putting something like that out, or even putting out that book, or like Habibi putting that out as like a Vertigo thing, you know, and doing really well. But that's not, you can't put those books in that category anymore.
But that stuff should be on. That should definitely be their Vertigo lineup. Like Vertigo should instead, you know, if it's not cost effective for them to do, you know, a ton of like, you know, odd choices and off kilter books, and put out a series of A-list graphic novels by top creators or indie creators and just sell them. You'll do really well because you'll also get more exposure because this is an A-list company,
right?
Supposedly,
right. See, that's the thing I always enjoyed about Vertigo is that it was the regulated pool of indie comics. Because there was so much crazy stuff coming out of Vertigo for years and years and years.
Early 80s Vertigo and 90s Vertigo was a real... That was the only way that you could get an alternative comic book at that time, because it was so hard to get indie books at that time. They didn't exist practically. You had like Kinchisic Press, King Hell. Those books were hard to get if you weren't, you know, like really going into previews.
If you weren't a dealer, or like you knew somebody, like, you get those books at conventions, you know? And like people are still trying to complete their collections of like all those old like kitchen sink books. And,
but now it's so easy to get books, like because of the digital catalogs.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem is like, I don't understand a thing like DC in the way that they're making the thing. Like, why not make Vertigo, if it's not cost effective for them to do it, make it strictly a digital release. Right. They're doing it with their stupid Injustice books and like the Amikami book, which is whatever, like on digital. And I love their He-Man stuff, which is fantastic. But like, why not do something like that? I don't understand why you would take away a means to get all these young, hungry writers that they have underneath their claws at this point, and play with them, have them put out. You know, the new Preacher is out there, new Sandman is out there.
Yeah, definitely, and like you want that, definitely, and you want that. You know, you want that regulated pool of like, this is cool indie stuff. You know, like Vertigo. Like even I'll put it further, even because like from 2000, I would say 2004, you had some really incredible Vertigo stuff too.
Hell yeah.
You know, like tons of miniseries, tons of one shots. Like if Sea Guy, phenomenal. We Three, which is in like development hell in Hollywood now.
Never gonna made.
And you get like weird stuff like that. The MF Grimm.
That was incredible too, and that was from DC.
Yeah, it was a Vertigo book, like the MF Grimm like bio comic, which you
won a ton of awards.
Yeah. You would have to dig through previews to get that if it wasn't for Vertigo. And even something like Dave Gibbons' Originals.
Hell yeah, it's a great book.
Which was like really interesting. Also,
well, we had the benefit of actually having to like study previews, like it's a monthly Bible,
right,
because we were retailers. But the problem is that it's not cost effective to put it on the shelves. Like a retailer is not going out of its way to order, 20 copies of originals because it might be a chance. And I understand that, and I agree with it to a point. There's certain things that we knew was going to be a hit if you pushed it hard enough, but you can't always do that 24/7.
Yeah,
people want their Spider-Mans. There's different characters for everyone, but sometimes you find a hit. Like Watchmen is not your average superhero book.
Right.
Sandman. Who thought that a emo book about a Dream King would be one of the most groundbreaking books out there?
Emo too,
right?
Yeah,
but it is so solid.
Oh, it's about a sad Dream King.
The Constantine thing still blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we've had a 300 run comic, and now we've scaled it down to put him in DC, where there's no calling for him at all, and it essentially is the death knell of Vertigo. Yeah.
And they didn't want that smoking on the cover of. I saw that
also. Yeah, they changed the cover on it.
Weird.
Smoking character, but the Comixology version had him smoking on it.
Right. Yeah.
Like they had the same image with him, like with the pentagram hand, which you have a pentagram hand, and he's got
like the Night Stalker, like Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, I wish it was Richard Ramirez comic book. Make it happen.
I think there's probably a few out there from Kitchen Sink.
Yeah, or King Hell. One of these evil ass.
Erotic.
What an awful company.
Hey, you got all those Danzig books.
You did get a lot of Danzig books. Didn't they do the? Didn't Veronica also do
Death Dealer? I think also.
Yeah, Death Dealer, and they did that great melting pot from Eastman and what's his name, Bisley.
Yeah. And Bisley was all over that, man.
Hell yeah,
it drew everybody's elbow like a penis.
And then Penthouse Comics came out. I think. Also weird.
A lot of interesting stuff, man.
But it's such a sad. I think it's like I don't want this company to do bad.
Yeah.
I want this regime to change.
Right.
But I just want them to just wake up from a bad dream and just like, we've made a terrible mistake, and just like, let's get Reverse Flash back in the picture. Let's get Wally West back in the picture.
Let's do it right,
fix
bro.
the Robin situation.
Yeah.
I was reading Red Hood and the Outlaws this week. It sounds like a bad band.
It does.
And they're going through his memories, and they showed his Robin.
Okay.
And he's like a grown man for the most part, and has the craziest looking Robin costume I've ever seen.
Really?
No underwear.
Okay.
And like little V's, like gold V's going up his arms, and like
was he jacking the tires off the car or not?
No, he was just getting yelled at by Batman.
See, that was like, that's jacking the tires off the car. I feel like
Morrison talked about that in his send off to Robin, where he was like, originally he was a redhead, Nightwing for the most part, and had the same exact origin, and decided like we need to make him different, gave him black hair and robbing tires off the Batmobile.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what we want.
I want something that's not this.
Yeah. I agree with you. We got 7 minutes. We got 6 minutes. What other books were awesome this week, John?
There were so many good ones. It was a really solid week, especially for Marvel.
The two Avengers books rocked.
New Avengers was a rocking book.
Regular Avengers was pretty good too.
It's good. I kind of want to get out of this new universe stuff already.
I gotta say, new Saga, phenomenal.
Was a great book.
That is my book of the week.
Yeah.
New Avengers, very close to that, but Saga, definitely. That cover, man, that cover like just blew my mind.
Saga was an incredible book. There was some great sex lines in that book. Talking about sexy Ohana.
Yeah.
I love that. My book of the week was definitely either New Avengers or honestly Captain America.
Too much tuna.
You reached Captain America this
week? I didn't read
week?
it this week.
What a friggin' book.
Yeah?
Yeah, man. I've loved the storyline, and I thought it was really weird with the Zemo stuff.
Yeah.
But read this issue. This solidified it as what a friggin' run.
Does it come to a head in this one?
No. I mean, it just like it you kind of see where they're going with this stuff, and like so much is on the line, and plus like you're starting to really realize that how much Steve Rogers cares about this kid as a son.
Yeah.
And supposedly, I think by issue 9 or 10, they're doing something incredibly huge.
Miracle Man. It's gonna be Miracle Man.
I would love to see him. And plus they make what's his name, Zola, look so awesome in this issue. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
It's like battle armor Zola.
It was like the cover kind of turned me off a little bit.
It's an awful cover.
Because it seemed like it was a little rushed. And I was like, I don't want to.
Jeremy Jr. is a weird artist
Yeah.
overall, but he goes super Kirby in this issue.
Okay.
And I don't like the size he gives to Captain America's shield. Because Captain America's shield should be huge. And it's kind of like there's one scene where it's kind of like, you know.
Like that dude from Braveheart?
Yeah. It's like he's hitting somebody. But it's a really, this might be your book of the week when you read this.
Saga's my book of the week this week so far.
You can't change your mind.
Yeah, I hope so.
But Saga was up there with me also. I love this book, and it pulled at my heartstrings.
It did. Really good book too. It's like I feel like it's been around forever. I think that's a testament to the book, and I think this is what, like issue 10?
10 or 11, I think.
11?
I think 11.
Maybe 9. Can we get the cover for Saga up there real quick? I don't even know if the numbering.
This is waiting to be a TV show.
Yeah. I don't numbering on that cover either.
That's beautiful cover. That's a really good cover.
Fiona Staples, man, all digital.
She's killing it. Is she all digital?
Yeah,
really?
Straight digital, man.
Wow,
she's incredible.
She looks heavy on the pencils too.
Yeah. It's just it's Photoshop.
Manga Studio.
It's Manga Studio and Photoshop, I think.
The book rocks, and it does feel like you've been with these characters for a long period of time.
Yeah,
because they have such a strong supporting cast at this point. You haven't seen Baron von Robot in a while.
No,
but the what's his name? The Will. I love that character.
You know what I keep noticing that I always forget to mention the fact that he has a cowl.
I know
on his cape.
I want to see him put that sucker on so bad.
I think that's gonna be a big thing where like he finally turns around and he's like, I'm Space Batman, and then he's gonna have some kind of wacky power.
Also,
Liarcat.
Liarcat and him are freaking incredible. But I love the cowl. I love that little touch. Because I think there is a story on where he got his cape. Yeah. And it's probably from a superhero of some sort.
Right.
But I also, just a quick mention, Daredevil was awesome this week.
Yes, it was.
I love the mystery of who this bad guy is that's shutting himself off in the darkness in an Iron Maiden for about 2 weeks. But I also love the fact that a kid called him Red Batman in the book.
Yeah, like, hey, you got Red Batman. I'm blind.
It's a great book.
Really, really excellent run. Like this is always top 10 for me every month. Yes. Daredevil, and I think
getting better and better too.
It's getting really good, and also like Foggy's got cancer. It's messed up.
I told that to Bobby because he hasn't read this. He's a huge Daredevil fan also, and he was like, "They really gave him cancer." It's like, yeah, they're probably gonna kill him off. And it's like, how miserable is this guy gonna be? Yeah. Like, that'll be the breaking point for him.
For Daredevil?
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna go dark again. I think they're gonna keep it light. Something's gonna happen.
But it's darkness underneath everything.
There is an underlying thing of like that sad Daredevil.
Well, because from day one they always said like, you know, he went to happy Daredevil in like a second.
Yeah,
and they said like it's because he's just basically completely bonkers out of his mind and just hiding his depression.
Post traumatic.
Yeah,
it's pretty nuts. I think maybe we're done. Done. I think Age of Ultron number 3 comes out next week.
Which one?
Age of Ultron number 3 comes out this week.
It does.
Next week.
And Superior Spider-Man AU, which is also a tie-in.
Can't wait.
Bunch of crazy stuff. Oh, and Batman Incorporated comes out next week.
Yeah,
wow.
finally.
The aftermath finally.
It's good. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. This has been another beautiful, fantastic, pumping episode of Behind the Counter. I'm Rich Stambolian.
I'm Fabrice Finkel.
Good night.